Thanks to funding support from the state and federal governments, Glenelg Hopkins Catchment Management Authority and West Wimmera Shire Council have delivered a major improvement in flood understanding and preparedness in Harrow, allowing the community to better plan for the future.
Hi, I'm Sheree Kale. I'm an environmental engineer at the Glenelg Hopkins Catchment Management Authority. The township of Harrow is located on the banks of the Glenelg River, approximately 75 kilometres downstream of Rocklands Reservoir. The Harrow flood investigation was funded due to the frequency of inundation in the Harrow township over the last 10 years. So there were 2 flood events in 2010, one in 2011 and one more recently in 2016. And when it floods, it impacts on some of the local community assets such as the Mullagh Park and properties on the eastern side of Blair Street. Real flood impacts in Harrow start to occur around a 2% AEP, which starts to affect flooding of properties, and sandbagging may be required. These flood events highlighted that understanding flood risks in Harrow was critical.
In this video, the amount of water and how often floods occur is described in terms of ARI or AEP. ARI meaning average recurrence interval. This is used in terms of years. AEP meaning annual exceedance probability. This is used in terms of percentages. For example, a 100-year ARI event will occur on average once in a 100-year period, based on historic flood data, but could happen more than once. This is the same as a 1% AEP event, which has a 1% chance of occurring in any year. During this study, a range of events were modelled, including events larger than 1% AEP down to 20% AEP.
My name's Ben Hughes. I'm a hydrologist. I work for water technology. I'm a consultant that undertook the flood modelling for the Harrow flood investigation. Outputs for the Harrow flood investigation are produced by combining Streamflow gauge information at Fulham Bridge and rainfall gauge information for gauges that are surrounding the township. We combine that information with topographic survey of Harrow itself. We enter the flows in a hydraulic model which shows how water flows over the terrain, and that produces flood levels and extents. So we do that for both historical events and design events. For instance, we use the December 2010 and September 2010 events for calibration. We model those events and we take them to the community at a community meeting, and we ensure that they're comfortable with how our model is producing flood levels for those observed events. We then use the historical rainfall record and streamflow record to produce design events. So we model a full range of events to events that might occur, a likelihood of occurring of 0.5% in a given year up to 20% probability of occurring in a given year. So it gives us a broad spectrum of flood extents and flood levels for the township. Community consultation during the Harrow flood investigation was absolutely critical. We need to understand how the community respond to floods, what floods have occurred, and use their existing knowledge to ensure our models are producing accurate results. We have numerous community meetings throughout the flood investigation because making sure the community's input is taken on board is very important. Once we confirm our models producing results that replicate community observations, we're able to use it to assess mitigation options by including levees, assessing the size of bridge structures, increasing conveyance to determine what sort of impact that might have on flood levels. Flooding in Harrow is produced by the Glenelg River upstream of the Fulham Bridge streamflow gauge. So we're able to tell what flows are expected in Harrow based on what streamflow recording we have at the gauge. It spills out of the Glenelg River into the low-lying areas east of the majority of the township, flooding the Mullagh Recreation Reserve, behind a few houses along the main street. The Harrow RSL is one of the first buildings in Harrow to get flooded during a flood event, which sandbagged during the December 2010 event and September 2011, which prevented it from being inundated.
Hello, I'm Gavin Kelly from the Victoria State Emergency Service, Grampians region, based out of Ballarat. This flood investigation is going to give the State Emergency Service a great opportunity to better understand the impacts of the flood in and around the Harrow township. It's going to allow us to fully develop our municipal flood emergency plan, which will assist in the response to and recovery from a flood event in the township and its environment. It'll give us the opportunity then to educate the community, to give a greater awareness of what impacts might have on the community from the flood event. It'll give us then the opportunity to give a better idea of lead time for the event that might be coming and what the community can do to help themselves in the time of an event. So here we see the 1946 flood level, so people can correlate that level back to across the street and the impacts it would have had here on the town.
I'm Gill Bradshaw. I work for the West Wimmera Shire Council. I'm the Manager for Planning, Environment and Development. The flood investigation raised several options, and we looked at several options for doing that, mainly levee bank levies, the placement of the levies and the height of the levies and what effects they would have on the houses and businesses in the town, and in particular the Mullagh Caravan Park. The flood investigation will give us definite information as to flood levels, and it will help council in the planning of the town. Any future businesses that want to develop in the town, as with the house owners, it will give council that guidance as to the best place for the building on the allotment, so the structure is not inundated by water.